This lesson will explain properties of positional and tag-based input fields. I'll use this sample layout to set up an input template. Input fields for the template are created automatically. Let's initialize field names from this top line and look at the input field's properties. The input field name is mostly ornamental, though you can use it to access a field value from a script or a calculated field. Input types are assigned by TextConverter automatically. String is the most generic input type. It covers any kind of input data. Word is a group of symbols separated by spaces. Let's set names type to word. You can see that only lines with single-worded names are picked up by the template. Alphanumeric type is a word containing only letters and digits. Switching the names type to alphanumeric excludes this customer name because it has a dash in it. Numeric type covers numbers which can be interpreted as integers, decimals, currencies, etc. Date is a calendar date in any format. Mask is a regular expression which defines a string pattern. Let's change this field's type to mask. TextConverter creates a default mask automatically. It's 1 letter and 5 digits in this case. Let's change the mask to 1 or more digits. Now numbers containing only digits are selected. Numeric and date input fields have format property. Date format is assigned automatically. This list of default formats is used for the initial format assignment. You can modify the list to control the default assignment behavior. You can choose a format from the list, or you can just type it in. You also can leave the format blank. TextConverter in this case will try to interpret a date string dynamically. This option is useful when the same input field can have a variable date format. String fields have the trim option, which is quite self-explanatory. Left and right trims remove spaces from the beginning and the end. Trim middle replaces consecutive spaces inside of a string with a single space. Multi-line property allows extracting data occupying multiple lines. We will review the related options in a minute. Left and right edge properties control spacing between adjacent fields. Should not touch option means that there should be at least one space between fields. Can touch means that fields are allowed to be next to each other without spaces. Can overlap option allows field values to cross over to adjacent fields areas. Let's consider the following sample. I set the template up from a typical line. This line is not picked up because the first and the second fields are touching. I change the right edge property of the left field to can touch, and the line is now recognized. Let's adjust slightly the field's edge. Field's position and width can be changed by dragging field's edges or by typing. Include and exclude field masks work similar to the masks on the template level, which we have discussed in the previous lesson. The difference is that template filters work on the entire input line, but field filters work on the input segments belonging to a field. Let's use the include mask of the third field to allow only March data. Now we will use the exclude filter to get rid of input records with the dates day equal 15. Please note, any string patterns can be used as filters. TextConverter supports regular expressions anywhere strings can be used. Can be empty is another easy-to-use option, which filters input records depending on emptiness of an input value. The last filtering property is use type for filtering. Let's change the type of our first field to word. All input records with multi-word values are filtered out. Unchecking this option allows all input records to get extracted, leaving the output fields empty for input values, which do not satisfy the data type. Now, let's take a look at the multi-line data extraction. A line used for setting up a template is called a baseline. Multi-line data can extend up and down relative to a baseline. Let's set the template up. There are two multi-line fields, description and note. Let's check the multi-line property for both fields. The bottom boundary is initialized automatically. Note field extends both ways, up and down, so we need to take care of the top boundary as well. Let's set it up. Now, the entire input segment is extracted. There are several options, defining top and bottom boundaries of multi-line fields. The number of lines is a maximum vertical extent of a multi-line field. The top and bottom tags allow to specify keywords or string patterns as a boundary for the vertical extent. The empty lines property specifies the number of consecutive empty lines to be used as a field boundary. The crossing text option governs a multi-line field behavior when an input text crosses the field's horizontal boundaries. There are three types of behavior: allow, skip, and stop. Allow option extracts portions of the crossing text, which are inside of field's horizontal boundaries. Skip option ignores the crossing text, and the stop option uses the crossing text as a vertical boundary. The break property controls how a vertical boundary behaves when input data of this template crosses data of other templates. The bottom boundary has one more property, end the record. Turning this property on will force parsing of the current input record to stop, even if other multi-line fields are not finished yet. The line separator sets a separating symbol, or symbols, for joining multiple lines into a single output string. The last multi-line option is skip lines. This option allows a multi-line fields to skip lines or ranges of lines. Our session comes to a conclusion. Tag-based input fields and their properties will be covered in the next lesson.